Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, the Proceedings 13 here, in the USS Vermont, the American Tier 10 battleship named after the state that's only slightly less obscure than the state of Rhode Island. Hey, come on, people from Vermont, we're not saying we don't love you. We're not saying you're not nice folks, we're just saying nobody's ever heard of you, alright? I can't help but feel we've had this conversation before. Probably in the last time I did a video featuring the Vermont, because I had actually heard of the state of Vermont. I know most people haven't. I know most Americans haven't. It's thanks to a TV show. I think it must have been in the 70s. Yeah, it must have been in the 70s, because I remember watching it at my grandmother's when I was very, very young, called Newhart, featuring American comedian Bob Newhart. You may remember him from The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon would have dreams about him as a Jedi Force ghost. He was a very sort of mild and inoffensive kind of comedian, but he was a very funny, mild and inoffensive comedian. That's probably why my grandmother watched him, because, you know, mild and inoffensive. And he ran a hotel in the woods of Vermont, and that's how I'd heard of the state. Of course, that show has now been off the air for at least 30 years now, which probably explains why nobody else under the age of 50 outside of the state of Vermont has ever heard of the state of Vermont. Come on, Vermont, even your neighbours don't know who you are. And it's not really surprising, because there's not really anybody there. The entire state only has a population of 643,000. It's got the least big state capital in America, which you've probably heard of, even if you didn't realise it was the state capital of Vermont, because it exists in World of Warships as a premium variant of the Cleveland class of cruiser. The Montpelier is named after Vermont's state capital. It's the smallest state capital in all of America. And in fact, Vermont's biggest city, Burlington, when you compare it to the biggest cities of every other state in America, Vermont also has the smallest, biggest city in the state. It's like nobody lives there. So it's weird. You've got this tiny little state that nobody's ever heard of. It's the 6th smallest state in the USA. It's got the smallest state capital, Montpelier, in the USA. And it's got the smallest, biggest city in the state, Burlington, in the USA. So they kind of overcompensated a bit. It's like they felt they had something to prove with the USS Vermont, because this ship is the chonkiest of chonky boys. I mean, it is huge. That, of course, is a consequence of when it was designed. Surprisingly, for a Tier 10 ship, this is not a post-war design. It is not a Cold War design. It's a post-First World War design. Oh, there was some comedy going on in chat there. I don't know if you noticed. The friendly Halland was running for his life from the enemy Marceau over there to the right. He fired one shot, and the Marceau exploded. The Marceau thought it was torpedoes. He's like, "How come I didn't see your torpedoes? What was it?" No, you're not running a detonation flag, and you got lucky. Oh, you probably noticed that. There we go, yeah. Not using your shift key to zoom out, instead relying on your mouse wheel, means that you're not fully aware of your surroundings like this. Although, to be fair, the Frederick the Great wasn't really paying attention to where he was going either, and cut right across the T of the Vermont. But yeah, guys, use your shift key. Oh, hello. Hello, Alaska. Are you stuck? Look at that. Now, ordinarily, this would be a dead Alaska. Unfortunately, due to in addition to the plethora of other shooting bugs that have crept into a game that's all about ships shooting at each other over the last couple of years, World of Warships has always had a problem with your target lock going all squirrely whenever you're locked on and shooting at a ship that's beached on an island. And what the hell is the Lexington playing at? I mean, okay, Tier 8 carrier in a Tier 10 battle. And yes, the Vermont is a huge target, and it's very, very difficult to miss with aircraft, but that wasn't just a Vermont, was it? That was the combined AA from a Vermont, a Frederick the Great, a Puerto Rico, a Halland, an Alvaro de Bazan, and at least one other cruiser. Oh yes, the Ibuki there, who's just... What did the island ever do to you, Ibuki? What is going on in this match? I mean, that wasn't the greatest target selection on behalf of the Lexington, but we'll be seeing the Lexington later, and you won't be surprised. Yeah, when we see that Lexington, you won't be at all surprised that he just derps his aircraft at the nearest cluster of ships. And yet, in fact, no, spoilers. Let's just watch. So the Alaska B has gone down, flooded by the I-56 submarine. The Vermont... How can I put this? I think somebody else said in chat that the Vermont is the only ship that scares them. And it's not because of the speed. it's a standard type battleship. It's really slow. But it has a lot, and I mean a lot, of very big and very dangerous guns. 12 18-inch guns with American super heavy armor-piercing shells. It has a heavier broadside than the Yamato. In fact, it used to have the heaviest broadside in the game. And just watch this. I mean, you shouldn't expect a Citadel against the Grosser Kurfürst because it's a Grosser Kurfürst. Its turtleback armor means that it's virtually impossible to Citadel at anything other than point-blank range, and even then you need to get lucky. But that doesn't mean it can't eat massive chunks of armor-piercing, penetrating damage just like that. And that Grosser Kurfürst has made a serious error of judgment, because he's rushing over to this flank at the same time as everybody else on his team on this flank is either dead or rushing away from this flank. So, day late and a dollar short, he sees the torpedoes, he realises, oops, bad idea, let's turn around to get out of here. That's an even worse idea. If he'd kept going into the islands, maybe he would have survived, but he didn't, so he's dead. And that's the first kill for the proceedings and the USS Vermont. Seriously heavy broadside. Like I said, at one point, not that long ago, this ship had the heaviest broadside, the heaviest throw weight of any ship in the game. Unfortunately, power creep is a thing in World of Warships, even for ships as relatively new as the Vermont, and it's now been edged out by, I think, the Italian Cristoforo Colombo. Ah well, what are you going to do? Still, very scary broadside. 12 18-inch super heavy armor piercing shells. Is this kill number 2? There's not a lot of health left. Yep, that's kill number 2. Yep, kill number 2, kiss goodbye to the Yoshino. In fact, ironically, if you have a look in chat, the Yoshino was just saying, no one scares me like the Vermont. And then he died. And then he said, see what I mean? And the proceedings replied, Chonk. Yeah. I do not have the Vermont, by the way. And I would like to, because I think it's a very, very good ship. Well, no. And I've said, oh no, dear Lord, Iwami, what are you doing? You don't come around a corner like that, broadside. Yep. You can Citadel in Iwami, and he did. Yeah, right before the torpedoes got him. It's not kill stealing, it's removing guns from the enemy team's inventory. But yes, as I was saying, I don't have the Vermont. And it's not because I think it's a bad ship. Although, and again, I have said this before, it actually is a bad ship. It's a terrible ship. It's a terrible ship with amazing guns. And amazing guns will do. The only problem is, in order to get to the Vermont, you have to play through a bunch of terrible ships that also have terrible guns. Well, the Minnesota at Tier 9 isn't that bad, but the Kansas at Tier 8 is just an utter disaster, and I don't have the patience or the free experience to do it. So I'll just have to enjoy watching other people's Vermont replays, like this one. There is something very, very satisfying about seeing the Vermont line up all 12 of these 18-inch guns and just unload on a hapless victim. And we have just spotted the Lexington. Right, this was the guy who thought it was a good idea to YOLO a bunch of Tier 8 dive bombers into the biggest AA bubble that this game has ever seen. Oh, he's managed to go undetected for the moment, but don't worry, we'll see him again soon, right after this Carno learns why it is a really bad idea to give broadside to the Vermont's 18-inch guns at, well, any kind of range, really. Man, it's like kicking puppies. Right, Slava or Lexington? Honestly, the Slava is the bigger threat. I mean, that thing is basically armed with railguns. It is very, very dangerous. Well, okay, the guns were reloading anyway. The Slava has disappeared. Lexington it is. And not any old Lexington. He has not even turned his engines on this game. He's in the same spot where he spawned. Because aircraft carrier players. Oh, why do I need to move? I've got aircraft that move. Well, that's why you need to move. There's the Kraken Unleashed. And yet, and this tells you absolutely everything that you need to know about aircraft carriers and World of Warships. The Lexington has just died, and even by the standards of aircraft carriers, probably not the sharpest tool in the box. I mean, he never moved the entire game. He just sat there waiting while the entire team closed in on him. So we've established that he doesn't know what the minimap is. We've established that he doesn't understand that his ship can move. We've established that he has remarkably poor target selection priorities when he basically YOLO'd all of his dive bombers earlier right into the biggest and most concentrated bubble of anti-aircraft firepower on the map. And his surviving torpedo bombers have a choice of 3 real targets to go for here: the Vermont, the Ibuki, or the Puerto Rico. So naturally he goes for the one with the strongest AA, the Puerto Rico. But he still gets the kill. So just to summarise, bottom tier carrier definitely was only playing with one hand, only ever seemed to touch the keyboard while rolling his face all over it, still kills top tier ships. Aircraft carriers and World of Warships working exactly as wargaming intended. And now, of course, with the introduction of submarines, they have given aircraft carriers the best anti-submarine warfare abilities in the game, and they're completely automatic. They require no input from the carrier player, because apparently if you're rolling your face all over the keyboard, there's only a 50% chance you might actually hit the correct key at the right time. So if a submarine pops up within strike range of a carrier's ASW, good luck. The carrier probably will not even be aware that he's sunk you. Right. Aircraft carriers. Since 2019, the class of choice for the type of player who really just, honestly, I'm busy, I can't really be bothered. Oh, the Slava just got, oh, hang on. A new shimmy. Oh, that's bad news. And a submarine. Here's the other thing that you may not realise about the Vermont. Look at how long the damage control lasts. That submarine has just lost its ping because the proceedings triggered his damage control. He's furiously attempting to reacquire the ping, but the damage control lasts like 21, 22 seconds. So all of his pings are failing to make an impact. The torpedoes just go sailing harmlessly by. The proceedings has dropped depth charges on him. He could have been in trouble, turning to avoid the submarine and the Shimi's torpedoes by presenting a flat broadside to the Slava, but the Slava is not interested. He's hiding behind the island, so he's perfectly safe here. Doesn't mean he might not be tempted, though, and the proceedings is getting ready for just that eventuality. I mean, the Slava could kill him, but he'll kill the Slava back, and nope. The Slava's like, no, not playing. I'm going to sit here and heal up a bit. Okay, fair enough. Now, the Shimi. Honestly, it's not a bad destroyer. Unfortunately, he picked the wrong moment to make a break for it. Yeah, you should have hauled ass out of there long before now, sunshine. But you didn't. So you're dead too, and that is kill number 6. 276,000 damage done as well. Which is impressive. I mean, yes, I know it's tier 10, but there were a lot of tier 8s present, so there wasn't that much damage to be farmed. Certainly nothing compared to, for example, an arms race battle where everybody picks up heals and health buffs. The proceedings is, of course, perfectly safe from the submarine now. Got the island in between them. The submarine isn't safe from him, though. There go the depth charge attacks and a couple of hits. Well, hits and near misses, which has earned him the Confederate Award. Meanwhile, yeah, the Slava's just gone down to a hot dose of high explosive shower from the Alvaro de Bazan, the Brazilian destroyer. That just leaves the submarine, who is not having a very good day. Honestly, I don't think submarines are as bad as carriers, despite Wargaming's best efforts. They're annoying, certainly. And absolutely, if you're in the wrong ship at the wrong time, and by that I mean not an aircraft carrier, obviously, there can be very little that you can do to counter them. But they're nowhere near as bad as aircraft carriers. Despite Wargaming's best efforts to see that they are. Oh, there he is, the U-1. Wow, I'm not sure why he's on the surface. He could be submerged. I guess he's just decided, screw it, you win. I've had enough. GG. So, yeah, 6 kills, Kraken Unleashed, host of other awards, and 286,000 damage done for the Proceedings 13 in the USS Vermont, the massive battleship named after the tiny and inoffensive state that almost nobody has ever heard of. And in fact, I'd only ever heard of because of the American comedian and actor Bob Newhart. Still going strong, by the way, at the age of 93. Vermont's favourite son, even though he's actually from Illinois. Sorry, Vermont, you know we all love you. Well, yeah, I mean, the 12 of us who've heard of you certainly do. Oh, come on, Vermont. I hope you haven't been offended. You know I'm just messing, and it could be worse. You could be Rhode Island. So, having now upset at least 12 people from 2 of the smallest states in America, that's it for today. The Proceedings 13 in the USS Vermont. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're all having a great day. And as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.